Hey guys, my name is Y, but you knew that already. And if you didn't, well, now you do. Welcome to my channel where I play games with my awkward personality. Today we're going to be playing Chapter 3 of the game Maginary. I am so excited. This game is so cool and unique, and it's unlike most games I've ever played. I'm excited to see what happens next in the story, so let's get started. Chapter 3, Airy Body. Why does the text look like that? Michael slowly opened his eyes and saw the low gray sky above him. He tried to remember where he was, but the constant humming in his head made it difficult to concentrate. He felt as if his head was filled with hot sand that was pulsing from the inside. With great effort, he raised himself up on his elbows and realized that he was riding along a highway in an open pickup trailer. A road sign reading, "Oh, that's the city I live in," floated by. Something stirred in his head. "I think that's somewhere on Earth. It means I'm back." Suddenly he was blanketed in darkness, and Michael decided that the pickup had entered a tunnel. But a few moments later, he realized that the darkness had enveloped him because he was once again lying down with his eyes closed. With great effort, he opened them once again, and this time saw the roofs of the houses floating above him. Michael thrust himself up and, clutching the side of the trailer, stuck his head out. The houses that floated had address plates that read, a place. The house numbers rushed by until the pickup stopped at building numbers. The stop was so abrupt that Michael fell back on the floor of the trailer and once again blacked out. When he opened his eyes, he found himself on his feet, looking at the back of someone's head. And below on the stranger's back was the letter Y. "Oh, that's me." Struggling to move his numb feet, Michael moved closer and peered over the person's shoulder. She was holding a phone. Michael squinted, looking at the screen, and fixed his gaze on the top line, which read, Michael squinted, looking at the screen. Inception. He realized that he was reading about himself. This realization provoked a real panic attack. He tried to say something, but no words came out. He felt as if his mouth was stuffed with cotton wool. Failing to say anything, Michael tried to snatch the phone from the woman, but his limp hands disobeyed him. He saw a new line on the phone screen which read, "Get off me, you nitwit." And then he heard it in his head, the end line that kept repeating like a broken record. He strained his every nerve to yell, but the only thing he managed to do was have a coughing fit that woke him up and forced him to spew sand from his mouth. Having opened his eyes, he found himself in the middle of a sandy beach. Is that what this yellow color is supposed to be? Sand? A few feet away from the arcade machine, the sea was rustling nearby. The heat was unbearable, and Michael felt as if he would melt any minute now. His mouth was dry, and he was terribly thirsty. He was still coming to his senses and trying to understand how he had ended up on the beach, and at the same time as why. He heard a sullen, hoarse male voice with a slight whistle. "Get off me, you nitwit." Worried that he had stood on someone, Michael immediately moved to the side and stared at the place where he was just a second ago. But there was no one there. He looked around. The beach was completely empty. "Who's there?" he asked with alarm. "Whoever you fell onto, you meathead dummy. Just look at him, Ray," continued the annoyed voice. A cloud of sand shot upwards from the place where Michael was a moment ago, revealing a rather long conch with a very human cough. I like how they actually revealed the letters from the sand. When Michael, still in disbelief, neared the conch, he was attacked with more sand along with another dose of insults. "What are you staring at, you wretch? Don't you think it's a good idea to apologize?" Now it was Michael's turn. "And why should I apologize when you are the one insulting me? Who am I talking to anyway? Some arthropod and a conch? Or what are you?" "You're the arthropod. You hear me? You hear that? You hear what this bloke is saying? Do you, Ray?" The voice once again addressed someone invisible, and then continued, "I'm just a conch, that's all. I would even say that I am just the air inside the conch, but to make your withered brain understands. To make sure your withered brain understands, consider me just a conch. Michael thought for a second, then snatched the conch and began to shake it vigorously. The conch gave a loud shriek. What are you doing, asshole? I'm looking for the loudspeaker. What loudspeaker, you imbecile? How many days have you been at Onzo? If you insult me one more time, I'll throw you into the sea, I swear. I have a name, and it's Michael, he yelled, but he immediately felt bad and added, I didn't want to crush you. You hear me? Sorry about that. Michael wasn't sure what moved the conch, his threats or his apology, but its tone of voice changed. Okay, I accept your apology. My name is Chi. I would shake your hand, but as you see yourself. What? Yes, I hear you, Ray. I'll ask him. Chi cleared his throat. More sand flew out of the conch, and he continued. How did you manage to get this far into Onzo without losing your human form, Michael? It's Michael. Whatever. I'm asking how did you get to the 4th sector, on both feet at that? Did the sciencemen find protection from anomalies after all? What protection? Listen, I'm not from your world. I'm from England and... Where? Interrupted Chi. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I have no idea how I ended up on this beach. The last thing I remember is the arcade room. Michael had a flashback. The robots finally broke the windows in and poured into the room when the arcade screen was suddenly lit with the message, Token paid. Michael began to faint. It was as if the machine was sucking him in, and at that last moment, the familiar black eyes flashed among the crowd of rusty, insane robots. After that, he collapsed. Damn, what time is it? The medallion flashback made Michael jump up. Sorry, lad, got no hands for a wristwatch. That's not what I mean. Where's the medallion? Michael rushed to the arcade machine and began searching the sand around it. What sort of medallion? Does it cost much? Inquired Chi. What does that have to do with anything? I need to get back home. Michael peered into the token slot and saw something shiny inside. Well, at least it's still there. He began kicking the machine, but that was no use. A lamp flashed above the coin slide, and a message appeared. Reconnect to power supply. Michael shuddered at the very thought of looking for electricity in the middle of an empty beach. He was almost ready to panic, and he suddenly remembered the reader. Why? Why do you hear me? You have to power up the machine somehow. She sounded skeptical. Who are you talking to now? What? Michael turned, remembering the conch. That's the reader. I'll explain later. Why? Electricity. Electricity, wondered why. She had no idea how to power up an arcade machine from another world. The only thing she knew was that the medallion was somehow connected to the book. That means she had to think of something that could be done with it. Okay, I'm assuming I need to plug in my charger, because that's the only thing I could think that has electricity. So I'm going to try that. Oh, there we go. That worked. Finally, the electricity came on, and the medallion fell out of the slot. Michael seized it and saw that a lot of time had passed since the horrendous episode in the arcade room. He now only had 18 hours left. After glancing at the map on the backside of the medallion, Michael lifted his gaze to the footpath, which he hadn't noticed before. It came out of the sea, ran under the arcade machine, and shortly afterwards forked in three completely different directions. Michael clutched his head in desperation. Kid, what's with all the panic? Came a voice from the conch that up till now had been observing Michael's erratic movements. Silently. I urgently need to reach this place. Michael jabbed his finger at a point marked on the medallion's map. Do you know how I can get there? Hold on, let me get my glasses. Although, why would I need them? I have no eyes. Looks like you don't either, since you haven't noticed that, said she, breaking out in a mocking laugh. Michael ignored the jab. But you can see me. I'd rather call it see-hearing. I can't read the signs that are flat because I find my bearings by sound and echolocation. You know, like bats and dolphins. Michael interrupted him. Okay, I hear you. I think that place is called Epicenter. Do you know how to get there? Huh. A few more sand grains fell out of Chi. You're asking me whether I know where the epicenter is? For the last 16 years I've been pointing in its direction, so to speak. Great, then how do I get there? Down the footpath. That I know. Which of the three? She paused as if he was contemplating something. Listen, he finally addressed Michael. I was actually going to the epicenter, but, well, how should I say this? With my method of travel, it'll take me a few centuries to get there. And your method of travel is what exactly? At first, Michael heard a hissing sound coming from the conch, then noticed that she was actually starting to move. Very, very slowly. Michael felt that he wouldn't be able to stop himself from laughing, and so, as not to embarrass Chi, decided to quickly change the subject. And why do you need to get there? Because even if I'm lucky enough to get out of Gonzo, I'm going to remain a bloody conch. As for the epicenter, they say that the anomaly loses its power there, and one can once again become human. It's the last chance for Ray and I. Michael really wanted to ask who this Ray was, but time was really running short. Plus, he was getting lightheaded from the awful thirst, so he quickly cut to the chase. Let's shake on it. I mean, it's a deal. So, which footpath do I take? Doesn't matter. All three take you to the epicenter. Let's take the left one, and we'll be there in 24 hours, give or take. I only have 18 hours left. Then we can take the middle one. It should take 15 hours or so. Great. Michael had already started towards the second footpath when he suddenly heard, the most important thing there is to hold your breath for a while. Can humans do that? I can hardly remember. Michael stopped. How long is for a while? Well, an hour and a half at the most. We'll have to pass through the lowlands with ammonia clouds. Damn, no, yelled Michael. Humans are not sperm whales. They can't hold their breath for an hour. What's with the last road? He asked with little hope left. Oh, that one's supposedly the fastest. 10 hours and you're there. Bet I haven't heard of anyone who made it to the end. Why? No idea. Those who managed to return and talk nonsense about permanent mirages and shifting sands. Nothing intelligible. No one who has tried managed to do it. Well, we'll just have to be the first. The other alternatives don't work, so let's take it. Easy, Tiger, countered she. It would be a good idea to wait out the sandstorm that's about to start, at least 2 or 3 hours. Sure enough, Michael and Y noticed that the wind had picked up, at times raising the sand above his head. Michael almost agreed to wait, thinking that he did have some leeway, but then remembered that on the eve of his disappearance, he also indulged himself and decided to postpone the dispatch of the script until the following morning. That flashback stung. No, if it lingers, I may have enough time. We should move right away. I'm telling you, Ray, once again yelled Chi, seemingly into nowhere. He's very jumpy. Well, whoever walks talks. Let's go, fella. Michael tucked his shirt into his boxers, placed Chi into the pocket. This move created, and they started along the rightmost footpath and went up towards the edge of the dune, which stretched along the whole coast. As soon as Michael ascended, both he and Y were greeted with an enchanting landscape as far as the eye could see. The land was covered with sand dunes. Michael had never seen anything like this, even in BBC nature documentaries, but the most amazing thing... Oh, the letters are curved. Most amazing thing was that all of these dunes converged in even concentric circles at some visible point hidden somewhere behind the horizon. What seems to be the problem? Now the letters are straight. I've never seen anything like this. Are they running in circles? Of course they are. The dunes converge at the epicenter, just like everything at Onzo. His throat was so dry that Michael spoke with difficulty, but curiosity had the best of him. What is this Onzo anyway? I found military pickups in the forest. The pamphlets there said something about the anomaly zone. What caused it? Despite the fact that the conch had no face that could betray emotions, I could have sworn that she saw Chi raise his eyebrows and throw Michael an incredulous look. Damn, kid, it's as if you're from another planet. Nobody knows what caused it. It happened 50 years ago, and in a matter of seconds, boom, she yelled, imitating the explosion, and the area in a 30-kilometer radius, along with all of its residents and infrastructure, was turned into the anomaly zone. The epicenter is the place where the explosion took place. At first, they tried to send research expeditions here, but then just gave up. It became apparent that scientific methods are worthless here. Not a single instrument works, and the laws of physics do not apply. And the most important thing is this: humans can't spend a lot of time here. On top of all the dangerous stuff around every corner, the longer the exposure to the anomaly, the quicker you lose your human form. How did you get here? Were you also part of the research group? Well, not quite. Let's put it this way. I offer delivery services to private researchers wishing to move objects out of Vonza. You were a smuggler? Surmised Michael. I don't like that name, squirmed Chi. Anyway, 16 years ago I got a big ticket order to bring an interesting object from one of the deep sectors, and so my pal and I decided to risk it. We timed it all perfectly and rented a biplane so that we could get out before the anomaly would hit us. But there was one thing that we missed in our calculations. Occasionally, the epicenter would be hit with explosions similar to the original one. At such moments, the anomaly would intensify greatly. Our takeoff coincided with one such explosion. In a matter of seconds, the shell of the plane was turned into debris, and we had to eject. By the time I hit the water, I already looked like this. It took me a couple of years just to get out of the water, but it could have been worse. It took him years to get out? Oh my gosh. At that very moment, Michael saw a human-like cactus on the dune slope. Its offshoots resembled the hands, legs, and head of a person who was trying to run away from a deadly misfortune. Michael looked at him with sincere compassion, but the cactus, as if sensing it, shot a few large needles at him, which Michael only managed to dodge, which is why, she continued in a preaching tone of voice, it would be so interesting to hear how it is that you, young man, have made it this far and are still walking on your own 2 feet. Michael began his story, sharing that he wasn't a part of this world. He talked about the book he had read, about the guy named Jeremy in the very same situation, and about the medallion that was supposed to help him get back. To all of this, she only made some pensive sounds. But when Michael began to explain that even at this very moment, a person called Bly was reading the story in a different world, Chi interrupted him. All right, kiddo, I withdraw my question of how you got here without losing your human form. Hey, Ray, he yelled. Looks like the lad went cuckoo while he was at Onzo. I told you we were lucky to keep all of our marbles. Michael was taken aback. Did I hear you correctly? A talking conch is telling me that I went cuckoo? Wow, easy. Don't take it personally. It's all good, man. Onzo doesn't take mercy on anyone. If you believe that you are from a different world and that all of this is described in some book that is being read by a mythical reader, so be it. Ray and I will understand. Who the hell is this Ray? Michael flipped out. Just like why, he was unhappy about the idea that there was no reader. A friend of mine, the pilot, unlike me, he was lucky enough to be turned into a seagull. Now he hovers in the sky. Michael looked up. Because of the approaching storm, the sky was gradually becoming overcast with yellow clouds of sand. Not a single bird could be seen. And you call me a psycho? I don't see any seagulls, announced Michael. What do you mean you don't? He's hovering above me all the time. We found out a long time ago that he can't fly away from me for more than a few hundred meters. He says he suffers great discomfort, and he's convinced that the anomaly is to blame. And I tell him that it's his conscience waking up whenever he wants to desert me. So what happened next? Michael reluctantly continued his story about the meadow, about the man with the black eyeballs, and the robots that chased him. When he finished at the arcade room, she spoke up. That brute with black eyeballs is the assailant? Assailant? If you're telling the truth, you were lucky to come out alive after meeting him. The assailants savagely wipe out any human that they meet. People say that they appeared along with Onzo itself, and that they wander the territory looking for humans. What do you say, Ray? How long ago? What's that? Ray says that he saw one just yesterday. He was idling around. Michael, who was already dragging his feet heavily, weak at the very thought that the black-eyed man may be somewhere nearby. They continued for another couple of hours, and throughout all of this time, Michael was tormented by thirst. His mouth and throat felt like a parched desert, and every time he took a breath, he felt like inhaling fire. You've been reading about this, and I felt like she needed a drink of water. Curiosity was the only thing that helped Michael stay distracted. She told him about all the strange things he heard about Onzo, and they saw quite a few curiosities along the way. A TV set in the middle of the desert with a pontificating human face filling the whole screen. A giant statue of a penguin with human legs made out of transparent glass, invisible only thanks to the sand that rose into the air. A couple times they met running scorpions that had roses instead of stings. But something else amazed Michael most of all. By the end of the second hour, it began to seem that with each dune that they passed, the landscape was saturated with more of a yellow color. Yeah, I've noticed. At first he thought the sand was rising up from the wind was to blame, but at the next climb he discovered the real reason. The wind was really blowing the sand cover off the dunes, but the yellowness was not coming from the sand itself. It came from the yellow autumnal, leaves lying under the sand. Michael had no way of explaining why these leaves would be in the desert. It all looked so absurd that for a while he even thought that he was seeing things that weren't there. But she confirmed that these were actual leaves, and that possibly the dunes were made up of them. It seemed as if the surroundings were simply a combination of the most incompatible things, as if Onzo fashioned itself using the imagination of several people at once. In the meantime, the storm blew up, earnest. The air was full of sand, and Michael had to breathe through his t-shirt. The visibility was decreasing. Even Wyatt had a hard time discerning what was happening when they climbed another ridge. She exclaimed, "Shush, do you hear it?" Michael stopped and tried to listen attentively, but he couldn't make out anything other than the sound of the wind. "It's a familiar sound," she continued. "I can't remember what it is. Take me out." Michael took Chi out, and at that moment his gaze chanced upon another object whose appearance in the desert was impossible to explain. "I think I know what sound you mean," Michael yelled, looking at the giant billboard that stood on its own at the side of the footpath. It was made up of small squares that rustled as they turned. More than anything else, it looked like an airport or railway station arrival and departure board. "If you mean the billboard," noted Chi, "that's not what I meant. This I heard an hour ago. Something else is making a noise, very far away. Rat-tat, rat-tat, rat-tat. It's something so damn familiar. Rat-tat, rat-tat. God damn it, I can't remember. Okay, what does the billboard say?" Because of the storm, both Michael and Y had a hard time reading the message, even on a giant surface such as this one. He had to move closer in order to make it out. The stop is in 1,000 steps. "That's strange," she yelled out when Michael read the sign out loud. "The route to the epicenter is obviously much longer, which means that something else is meant here. Something that makes that damn sound. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's move it or we'll turn into one of those dunes ourselves." They moved forward with the same tenacity, and as soon as they climbed another ridge, Michael saw another billboard below. Just like the last time, he had to go up all the way in order to read the already familiar message. "The stop is in 1,000 steps. This must be some kind of mistake," Michael said. "The previous one said the same thing, and it's at least 500 steps behind." "I'll stay," offered Chi. "Ray says that he can't see a damn thing and can't tell us how far we've walked. I don't like the feel of this," but Michael was no longer listening to him. He ran to the next dune, carefully counting the steps and chasing the horrid ideas away from his mind. It was 810 steps to the next billboard that had the very same sign. "The stop is in 1,000 steps. What the hell? Why do they all say the same thing?" Michael screamed. "That sound also isn't getting any closer," cheerlessly noted Chi. "Looks like we aren't moving, lad." By this time, the storm was raging, and Michael could barely open his eyes. He remembered the meadow from which he had also tried to escape with no success, and the fear of despair beginning to overwhelm him. "Kiddo," Chi screamed, spewing out the sand that penetrated the t-shirt. "There's nothing for us here. You hear me? We should go back." Michael was desperate. He knew that if they turned back, his chances of returning home would be gone. "Do you hear me? We should get back," she continued to yell. "Or this billboard will be the headstone of our communal grave, and Ray will have to hover above us forever reciting a prayer." The last sentence pulled Michael out of his rueful thoughts. "Sorry, I couldn't read that." "Why?" "What's that?" She perked up. "Why? The one who's reading this, and the one who's going to help us move forward." "Oh no, lad, that's bleeping believable. Ray, time to remember the Lord's Prayer. I'll prove to you that I'm not a psycho." Michael was even a bit excited by the fact that he now had an opportunity to prove the reader's existence to Chi. He took out the medallion. At 1,000 steps should be taken by Y, not us. But she was no longer listening. All of his strength was focused on despair. Bloody hell. I can't even see the bloody billboard. Maybe he's imagining it all. What did I even sign up for? I should have stayed on the beach. Okay. 1,000 steps. I'll be back, guys. When they approached the next dune, the sandstorm came to an abrupt end. This time there was no billboard. Michael was literally dragging his feet, and he labored to spit the grains of sand out of his mouth. He was in a state of trance when he heard Chi yell. The sound is very close. I think it's behind his dune. I still can't remember what that is. Rat-a-tat. But Michael and Y no longer had to guess what was making the sound. After climbing on top of the dune, they saw a train that was hurtling ahead down below, right between the two dunes. Rail car. Countless train cars came out of one turn and several kilometers later disappeared behind another, and that continued for all the time that Michael and Chi looked at the train. Chi screamed, "Aha! It's a train, kid! A train! I forgot what it sounds like, but of course, that's why it's the shortest road to the epicenter." Michael didn't answer because he could no longer unglue his dried up lips. He just rolled down the footpath towards the building with a sign that read Railway Station. Oh. That was the end of Chapter 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Come back next time when we do Chapter 4. Bye.